Hey there guys, Jared from Avalanche Reviews here, and I've been asked to say that I'm doing this of my own volition, and Kid Shoryuken is treating me very humanely. Alright, with that out of the way, getting down to business, there are a ton of game franchises that ended before their time. Series that still had some life left in them, but for whatever reason, weren't able to get that last release they deserved. And in that category, there is no better representative than Parasite Eve, a horror RPG made by Squaresoft back in a wonderful, beautiful, amazing era in gaming history. At the time, Sony's PS1 had already established itself as a powerhouse console, and Squaresoft had made a killing by deciding their next Final Fantasy game would grace its disk drive as opposed to being slotted into an N64. It was a short but glorious moment in time when Squaresoft was doing so well they could afford to experiment, which I think we can all agree led to some of the absolute best titles the company released to date. Speaking of which, Parasite Eve was a very odd amalgamation of elements that defied convention. The story was borrowed from a Japanese sci-fi novel of the same name, and its gameplay was something you couldn't necessarily nail down with a single genre. I mean, technically, it is an action RPG since you're able to run around and control Aya during battle, but then again, you are waiting for an active time bar to fill up before you can take any actions, which makes it one of the very few turn-based action RPGs I can think of, the only one coming to mind being Quest 64. And talk about a lineage to live up to. On top of that, it followed a general horror theme that reminded people back in its day of the Resident Evil series, leading to it getting labeled as a survival horror RPG, something I honestly never understood. I mean, I guess there are some similar elements here if you're squinting your eyes really hard, but realistically, PE plays out like any other RPG. You'll explore the world looking for items and upgraded gear and fighting enemies the same way you would in a Final Fantasy game. Honestly, if you ask me, the whole survival horror label thing probably came more from some similar visual aesthetics and not the gameplay itself, but I'm not exactly complaining. That's a pretty damn good point of comparison. Oh, and since we're on that subject, hot damn was this a gorgeous looking video game. It has these phenomenally detailed pre-rendered environments, and while the 3D elements might look a little wonky by today's standards, at the time it was mouth-watering. But if there was one single element this game was known for above all else, it would be its eye-melting CG cutscenes. In fact, gaming advertisements of the day referred to PE as the cinematic RPG thanks to its wealth of pre-rendered story scenes. It was actually pretty cool to be playing video games at the time. It was like you were witnessing the birth of a brand new genre, the cinematic RPG. After its success, Parasite Eve would see two follow-ups, the first one moving a little further from the whole RPG thing and cozying the hell up to those Resident Evil comparisons. After the second game, we would have to wait an entire 3 console generations before getting a PSP release of all things, but by then Squaresoft had lost the rights to the sci-fi novel its story was based on, leading to a game that included some familiar characters, but let's just say it didn't live up to the quality the franchise had been known for up to that point. And since then, it has been absolutely radio silent. It's honestly a very sad story, and that's because Squaresoft is likely never going to get the rights for a proper sequel back, effectively making this a dead series by default. But hey, at least we got one and arguably 2 great games out of the deal, so it's a little hard to get too upset. And with that, I've got to get back to the cage that Jim keeps me in, so I guess I'll talk to all of you, I don't know, the next time he lets me out. Peace out, guys.